Hi, my name is Robin and you are welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be teaching you how to solve questions on inequalities. Let's dive right into it.
Introduction to inequality. What is meant by inequality? Inequality is an expression or an equation that involves two or more of the following symbols. This is called less than. This is called greater than. This is called less than or equals to. This is called greater than or equals to. So, what do we actually mean about these symbols? I'm going to explain this now. Now let's check that. So now, for an example, if I say P is equal to 3 and Q is equal to 4. Okay, in this case, I can tell you P is less than Q. Why? Because P is 3 and Q is 4. So, and 3 is less than 4. So we can write it like this. So 3 less than 4. It simply means that 3 is smaller than 4. But in a case where I have Q is greater than P, remember that 3 is less than 4. It simply means 4 is greater than 3. So that is what it means here. Our Q is 4 and our P is 3. So 4 is greater than 3. So we use this symbol. 4 is greater than 3. 4 is greater than 3 simply means 3 is less than 4. So if 4 is greater than 3, we can try to connect these two together by saying if P is less than Q, then Q is greater than P. That is what it means. Because 3 is less than 4, it also means that 4 is greater than 3. So, that is the explanation of this. Now, let's go to the next two. Now, let's take this. P is less or equal to Q. Okay, now, what this symbol means is less than or equals to. So less than, that means P is less than Q, okay? Or P is equal to Q. That is what it means by less than or equals to. So here, P is less than Q, and at the same time, P is equal to Q. So if I say P is 5 and Q, okay, is 7, okay? So that means 5 is less than 7, which is true. 5 is less than 7, which is true. Now, or here it says, what is P? 5 is equal to 7. Normally, 5 is not equal to 7 in mathematics, but now inequality is telling us that our P is less than Q or equals to Q. So it simply means that 5 is less than 7. This statement is true based on our inequality. And 5 is equal to 7 This is also true based on our inequality. So what does less than or equals to means? It means inclusion. I will explain inclusion or inclusivity by the time we move on. Okay, now let's take the last symbol, which is greater or equals to. Now, greater or equals to, P is greater or equals to Q. What this means is that P is greater than Q, or P is equal to Q. So, for an example, if I say 6 and I say 4, okay? So P is greater than Q. That means 6 is greater than 4. This statement is true, right? Because 6 is greater than 4. On the other hand, our P is equal to Q. Here, it tells me that 6 is equal to 4. In mathematics, 6 is not equal to 4. But inequality is telling us that 6 is equal to 4 based on this. And like I said, this statement will be true. Why? Because greater or equals to means inclusion. I will explain that. Okay? So now let me explain values and variable inclusivity or inclusion. Okay, now remember that we talked about less or equals to and greater or equals to. So this is where actually the inclusivity theorem works. So let's assume our P is less or equal to Q and our Q is greater or equals to P, right? Because if P is less or equal to Q, that means Q is greater or equals to P. But I'm going to explain the inclusivity here now. Let's say our P is 6. Okay? Our P is 6. Then our Q is a range of value, which is 8, okay, 7, 6. So P less than Q, less or equals to Q, it means that P is less than Q, or P is equal to Q. That is what that means, right? So let's check now. What is our P? Our P is 6, and our Q is a range of value 8, 7, 6. So 6, which is our P, P less than Q. 6 is less than 8. That statement is true because 6 is less than 8. So P is less than Q. That statement is true. Then 6 is less than 7. That statement also is true. So for this one here, according to what we have here, the statement is true. Okay? Now, let's check this one here. This says P is equal to 6. P is 6. Q also have a range of value that is 6. So 6 is equal to 6. So here, the statement, okay, is true. So you can see that. So here we can actually tell you that P is less or equals to Q. Now, if you go by using Q greater than P, okay, which simply means Q is greater than P or Q is equal to P. What is my Q? Q is 8. And what is my P? P is 6. 8 is greater than 6, so this statement is correct. Okay? 7 is greater than 6. This statement is correct. Here, 6 is equal to 6. Q is equals to P. So this statement is also correct. So if P is less or equals to Q, then it means Q is greater or equals to P. Now let's take the basic or the fundamental rules of inequalities. Okay? Okay, let's assume P, okay, is less than Q. For an example, okay. So here, and let's say P is equal to 2 and Q is equal to 4, right? P is 2 and Q is 4. And you know 2 is less than 4. So P is less than Q. So that is okay. So let's add, okay? Let's add 3 to both sides of this equation, of this inequality, sorry. So if I say P, I'm adding 3 to left-hand side, and I'm adding 3 to right-hand side. Okay? Now, we want to see if that statement, P less than Q, is still true. We already know that it is true, P less than Q is true when P is 2 and Q is 4, because 2 is less than 4. So this statement is true. Now, if I had plus 3 to both sides of this statement, does it still make the inequality true? That is what we want to check now. So now, what is P? P is 2, right? So 2 plus 3, that will be 5, less than. What is Q? 4. 4 plus 3, that will be 7. So this is 5 is less than 7, which simply means the statement is still true. So what is rule 1? Rule 1 is when a quantity or value is added to both sides of the inequality, the inequality remains the same. Remains the same simply means true or false. So in this case now, P less than Q is true based on P is 2, Q is 4. So 2 is less than 4. Now I'm adding plus 3 to both sides of that inequality, and I see that P is 2, so 2 plus 3, that is 5, and 4 plus 2, that is 7. 5 is still less than 7, which also is true. So it simply means that the inequality remains the same. And when you subtract, let's subtract the same on both sides also. Let's say P minus 2 and Q minus 2. Okay? You are putting the same thing on both sides. And what is P? P is 2, right? So 2 minus 2, this is 0 less than. Q is 4. 4 minus 2, this is 2. You can see is 0 or 0 still less than 2, which is true. So it simply means that when a quantity or value is added or is subtracted or added to both sides of the inequality remains the same. So this is what we call the addition and the subtraction rule. So let's assume something here. Let's assume P is greater than Q. So in this case, let's say P is equals to 4 and Q is equal to 2. You can see P is 4 and Q is 2. So 4 is greater than 2. So P is greater than Q. So this is true, right? This statement is true. Okay. So now let us multiply both sides of the inequality by a positive value or positive quantity. So if I multiply side P by plus 2, or plus 2 is still the same thing as 2. Okay, so if I multiply that by 2 and I multiply this side by 2, okay, what is P? P is 4. 4 times 2, that is 8. So this side will be 8. Q is 2. 2 times 2, 4. This side will be 4. So 8 is still greater than 4, which makes that statement true. So this is still true. So it simply means when you multiply both sides of an inequality by a positive value or quantity, that inequality still remains the same. True, true. Now, let's check in terms of division. If I divide by plus 2, which is still 2, okay, and I divide by 2, which is still 2. So this is positive 2 divided by positive 2 here. What is P? P is 4. 4 divided by 2, that is 2. What is Q? Q is 2. 2 divided by 2, that is 1. 2 is still greater than 1, which makes that statement true. So now, rule 2 now is when multiplying or dividing both sides of an inequality by a positive value, the inequality remains the same as we have seen here. Okay, now let's go to the next rule. So here, let's assume P is greater than Q. Let's say P is 4 and Q is 2. P is 4 and Q is 2. So 4 is greater than 2. That means P is greater than Q. So this is true, right? Okay. So now, if I multiply both sides of this inequality by minus 2, okay, by minus 2. I'm multiplying both sides by minus 2. So what is P? P is 4. 4 times minus 2, that is minus 8, right? Q is 2. 2 times minus 2, that is minus 4. Okay? So in this case here, you can see minus 8 is not greater than minus 4, because minus 4 is greater than minus 8. So minus 8 is not greater than minus 4. So this statement is false. But for us to make this statement true, as we have here, we can change this sign to less than. So that would be minus 8 is less than minus 4. And minus 8 is less than minus 4, which is true. Okay? So in this case, this is true in this case. So when you multiply both sides of an inequality by a negative value, the sign of the inequality changes. You can see the sign changes. So the same thing here, if I divide, let's divide by -2. Okay, let's divide by -2. Let's divide by -2. I'm divided by -2. I'm divided by -2. Okay, P divided by -2. What is P? 4. 4 divided by -2. That is -2. And Q, which is 2, divided by -2. That is -1. You can see that -2 is not greater than -1. But it's saying -2 is greater than -1. And -2 is not greater than -1 because -1 is greater than 2. So in this case, that means this statement is false. But for this statement to be true, we have to change the sign to less. So which is -2 will be less than -1. And -2 is less than 1, which is true. So here, when you divide both sides of an inequality by a negative value or quantity, you have to change the sign. The sign here says greater. Now you have to change it to less than. So rule 3. When multiplying or dividing both sides of an inequality by a negative value, the inequality symbol will change to the opposite symbol. You can see here, greater is now less. Greater is now less. Let's take an example. Solve the inequalities. Okay, the first one says 3 plus x is greater than 7. Now, remember that we want to get our x. What is beside plus x? This is plus 3. Okay? So for me to remove plus 3, I have to add -3 to both sides. Let me quickly tell you what I'm trying to do here. If I have something like this now, this is a linear equation, okay? In linear equation, we want to solve for x. So that means we want only x to be on the left-hand side. And for me to allow x to be on the left-hand side, I need to remove plus 3 on the left-hand side. For me to remove plus 3 on the left-hand side, I have to add the opposite of what I'm removing. What I'm removing is plus 3. So I want to add -3 to both sides. So this is x plus 3. I'm adding -3 to both sides. Okay? So plus 3 minus 3 will cancel out. So x is remaining here, and 7 minus 3, that is 4. Okay? The same thing is applicable when we have inequalities. So now, I want only plus x to remain here. But what is there with plus x? Plus 3. So I will add -3 to both sides, which is the opposite. So 3 plus x minus 3 is greater than 7 minus 3. And remember the rule, when you had the same thing, or you subtract the same thing on both sides of the inequality, the sign remains the same. So 3 minus 3, that is 0. So this x is greater than 4. The sign is not going to change. Now, what does this mean? This means that x is greater than 4. That means for all values of x that satisfies the inequality. Okay? If I say for for all values of x that satisfies the inequality. It simply means x is 5 because 5 is greater than 4. X is 6, 6 is greater than 4. X is 7. I'm just using integer here because x can still be 4.5 because 4.5 is greater than 4. 4.1 is still greater than 4. Okay, so that is what it means. Don't worry, we are going to see that when we get to graphical illustration of that. So let's go to B. 3t less than 6. Now we want only t to remain here, but 3 is multiplied to t. Okay, so in this case, you have to divide both sides by 3. Remember, you are dividing both sides by positive 3, so the signs remains the same. So here, 3t, I'll divide by 3 on this side, and I'll divide by 3 on this side. So 3 we cancel 3, so 3 is less than 3 here is 2. So, and this is for all values of t that satisfies this inequality. All values of t, that means t less than 2. That is that. You can see the sign is not going to change because I'm dividing both sides by positive value. C. Z minus 2 is greater or equals to 5. Now, I want only z to remain here. So I will add to both sides the opposite of minus 2, and that is plus 2. So z minus 2 plus 2 and 5 plus 2. So this one we cancel this one. So z is greater or equals to 7, which simply means z is greater or equals to 7 for all values of z that satisfies the inequality. The sign remains the same because I am adding positive, I am adding to both sides. Remember, when you add or you subtract to both sides of the inequality remains the same. D. P divided by 3 less or equals to 2. Now, remember that here, for me to leave only P on the left-hand side, I need to remove this divided by 3. And for me to remove divided by 3, I have to add to both sides or do to both sides the opposite of divided by 3. Opposite of divided by 3 is multiplied by 3. Okay? And this is positive. So that is P divided by 3. So I'm multiplying by 3 on that side, and I'm multiplying by 3 on this side. So this one here can cancel this one out. So P is less or equals to 6 for all values of P that satisfies this inequality. So the sign still remains the symbol, or the sign still remains the same as it is, because you are multiplying both sides of the inequality by positive value. Let's continue. Now, let's check this one here. Solve the inequality. Okay, on the left-hand side, we have 3 minus 4t less or 8 less or equals to 8 plus t. So, let's assume I want to remove this 3 on this side. That means I have to add minus 3, right? Because this is plus 3. So, minus 3 plus 3, 4t. So minus 3. So I'm adding minus 3 to both sides, right? Okay. So plus 3 minus 3 we get out. So that is minus 4t less or equals to 8 minus 3. That is 5 plus t. Now, I want to remove this t here. Okay, I want to remove this t here. That is plus t. That means I have to add minus t to both sides. So that is minus 4t. I'm adding minus t to this side. T, I'm adding minus t to this side. You can see that is the only thing that I added here that is showing. So minus t plus t, that cancels out. Minus 4t minus t, that is minus 5t, less equals to 5. Okay? Now, I want to get t. What is disturbing t? Minus 5. That means minus 5. For me to remove minus 5 from t, I have to divide both sides by minus 5. And remember that when you are dividing both sides of an inequality by a negative value, you change the inequality sign. So I'm dividing by minus 5. So I have to change the sign as the rule says. Okay? So this one, we take out this one. So t is greater or equals to minus 1. Wow, congratulations to you. You were able to stay to the end of this video. In my next video, I will be teaching types of intervals and in-depth of linear inequalities. Hope to see you in my next video. Bye for now.